All right, guys, how's it going? Been a really long time since I've vlogged, but thought I'd take this opportunity to vlog my experience and kind of my journey with this car. This is a 2019 Aston Martin Vantage. Very, very fun car. I've done a few mods to the exterior, like wheels, lowered it. Did like a front lip on it, custom rear spoiler as well. But I've always wanted to kind of get more power out of this car. So I've worked with Spool Performance and Black Boost to kind of really up the ante on this car. What we're going to be doing is basically a max effort full bolt-on build on this car, and there's not really a whole lot of information at all online about the process, putting the high pressure fuel pumps on it, putting the low pressure fuel pumps on it, the big turbo install for a Vantage specifically. I mean, I see all kinds of videos for the AMG GT, the C63 and all that stuff, but not really a whole lot of videos for the Vantage. So I'm hoping to really help some guys out, do some decent, tutorials on kind of how to do this shit, because there's, again, just not a whole lot of videos on the Vantage, and, upgrading the turbos, doing the intakes, and, etc. So here's kind of the build. Again, I went with the Black Boost intake system, the cold air intake system. I thought it was pretty cool, so I went with that. Spool Performance low pressure fuel pump right here. We are going to be upgrading the spark plugs. Obviously, I've heard that the HKSs are the best for this platform, especially if you go with a much bigger turbo. This is the high pressure fuel pumps. Went with the FX 350s. These bad boys are no joke. We are going catless downpipes, and here is the big boys. I was reluctant about going with a huge turbo, but honestly, I've heard nothing but good things with Spool Performance. These things are massive, man. These are the IFX 1200s. Definitely capable of much more than I'm gonna be putting down. With this setup, I've been told, I've seen numbers with guys running like 950, 900, 800, 850. But honestly, man, I'll be okay with 800 horsepower to the wheel. I am not running meth. I am gonna be running an E85 mix with a 93 map also, but not running meth. Just had bad experiences in the past running meth. So this is it, boys. This is the build. Definitely appreciative of Spool Performance hooking me up, and here we go. All right, guys, so continuing on the build here, we're about to do the low pressure fuel pump. First thing you want to do, guys, very important before you start taking anything apart with the fuel, is you want to definitely disconnect your battery. There's a lot of sources online that'll show you how to disconnect your battery, but it's very, very simple, very easy. This cover essentially just comes off. You got to get like a pry tool, pry it from the bottom. This cover comes off, boom, exposes your battery, positive, negative terminal. Just disconnect them. That way you don't have power going to your fuel whenever you're messing with your low pressure and high pressure fuel pumps. You want to make sure that obviously you disconnect all that stuff. All right, so second step after disconnecting your battery, You're gonna have a carpet here, which you're gonna take out, and you're gonna have another like almost like carpet mat here. You're gonna wanna make sure that you take that out, and boom, you got basically nothing. A lot of you guys are probably like, where the hell is the low pressure fuel pump? Believe it or not, it is right here. And it's not fun to get to. It's kind of a pain in the ass. In order to get to it, you have to essentially take out the trims of the trunk. You have to take out this trim, that trim, and this trim. And this essentially will be coming up as well. And there's gonna be like a sticky, almost matte adhesive that needs to be peeled back in order to expose your low pressure fuel pump. Let's go. All right, guys, next, you're gonna have some T30 bolts right here and right here. Both of these are T30. And then you got these little suckers right here. There's 2 on this side and there's 2 on that side. Right there and then right there. And you're gonna have another one that you'll get to right there, but obviously this has to come first. That's gonna be the next step. Now, once that piece is out, you'll see here, you'll start working on both of the side pieces, this one and this one here. Now, what you'll wanna do is the side trims have this little light right here. And what you wanna do is you wanna kinda carefully pry it a little bit. There's no bolts in here anymore. You'll need to unplug the light right here. Once you unplug the light, there is actually going to be a 532 Allen key right there. You'll need to loosen that, and you'll actually have a little, I'll do my best to pry this, but there's gonna be a little freaking, it's escaping me the name of these things, but you'll need a pry tool to pop those little clips out. But there's only one right there. So again, 532 Allen key, loosen this, you'll pop out the little pry clip right up in there, and this entire piece will come right out. Okay, so that side is out. Now, we're starting to really get somewhere here. The other side is literally exactly the same. You are gonna have a push clip right here. I'm just gonna call these damn things push clips. Let me zoom in. And you're gonna have a light right there that you're gonna need to disconnect. Same thing right there, 532 Allen key right there. Once you've loosened that, there is gonna be, again, another push clip right behind there. So again, 532 Allen key, a push clip behind here that you'll need to get to, just like the other side. Disconnect the light, and you should be good to go for this whole trim piece right here. Okay, so now that that trim piece is out, you'll now work on this actual little divider right here. So believe it or not, this divider can be a pain in the ass if you don't know exactly how to take it out. And you can work really hard doing shit the wrong way. And I've pretty much figured that out. So what you really have to do is there's like this little slanted, let me zoom in. There's that little slanted black piece right here that you need to essentially pry this in order to get this little aluminum bar out of it, because the aluminum bar is actually stationary to this. It's not to that. So you'll need to kind of pry it in order to get it to pull out of the divider. It's kind of a pain in the dick, but that's how you do that. Okay, so the divider is out. Now the next part is this carpet right here. This is all one piece. Now another way you can do this is by obviously taking out this trim piece and taking out that trim piece, but that's just a lot of work. What I do is I literally pry this whole thing up, right? That's how I'm gonna get access to the low pressure fuel pump. I'm gonna essentially take the weakest spot of the carpet and kind of fold it up, which you know, I'll show you how. I'm gonna do this here in just a sec. Kind of like this. You know, it's very pliable, so you're not gonna hurt anything. Kind of fold this up. Once you fold this up, you can kind of just take it completely out. You know, it's very, very easy. That's actually probably one of the most easiest things to do in the entire process of trying to take out the low pressure fuel pump. Now, this part, it's not hard, but it can kind of be a pain in the ass depending on how old your car is, or if it's been in the sun, or if the adhesive has just gotten completely stuck to the chassis of the car. It just all depends. Each cars are different. Mine actually, thank God, is not too bad as far as the adhesive goes. So this just literally peels up. Now, it peels up a lot harder than it looks. Since I've already peeled this up before, the adhesive isn't as difficult to work with as it was once before. But needless to say, this essentially just kind of comes up. And once this comes up, I mean, you want to be careful not to rip this stuff, right? Because again, you know, you don't want to have to replace that. But anyways, once you kind of pry up the right side, you don't need to pry up the entire thing. You just need to pry up the right side, okay? Once you do that, you're now going to have access to your fuel tank and where your low pressure fuel pump is going to be. This also is double-sided adhesive. Okay, so very easy to get to once you've gotten to this point. But here's where the low pressure fuel pump is gonna be. This is the access point. Let's keep moving. And boom, and like that, it's all done. Once you got the fuel pump assembly back in the car, completely wired up, obviously you put everything back together. Here is the basket. For those of you that don't have any idea what the low pressure fuel pump looks like in the AM6 Aston Martin Vantage, this is what it looks like. So you'll actually need to go through here, like I just showed in a few seconds ago. Go inside the tank and to the right. And in this basket will be sitting, okay? I'm gonna throw a few pictures up here to kind of reference the fuel pump, the wiring of the fuel pump, and also the tubing, which is important because the tubing does get rerouted. So last thing after the fuel pump is installed, what you'll need to do for the spool setup is install your hop switch, which I'm gonna reference another picture right here. That is your hop switch. But apparently there are two areas on the M177, as far as the Aston Martin goes, to plug the hop switch into. Obviously you want to put it into your intake manifold, but obviously you want to do the path of least resistance. Now, on the passenger side, I could not find it. I mean, it's definitely somewhere there, but obviously I didn't find it accessible enough to want to choose the passenger side, so I went with the driver's side. Now, this is basically the hop switch. I went right here, which I apologize about the horrible lighting here, but I'll zoom in as best I can, and the hop switch is literally, Jesus, sorry about that. Sorry about that, guys. But again, the hop switch is kind of right there. It's on the driver's side. It's very easy to get to here. Okay, there we go. Jesus. All right, so it is right there. That is the hop switch. It is right on the intake manifold. I did use a worm clamp. I wanted to make sure that thing never backed out, but that is your hop switch. It is going to the driver's side intake manifold. I have that vacuum line coming off right here to I'm sorry if it's hard to see, but I kind of wired it all right here. And I ran the wire through the other side of the passenger. There's like a little grommet that I'm gonna show you here in just a second that I ran the wire through. I actually ran it through the entire back wall through there. And here it is. So this is the hop switch for the low pressure fuel pump. Now again, the cowl is gonna cover this entire area, so you're not gonna be able to see that. I'm gonna tuck that away here in just a few, so you're not gonna be able to even see that stuff. But to finish off the low pressure fuel pump wiring, which here is probably, I don't wanna say the more complicated part, but if you don't have a good knowledge on wiring, I would say not to do this part, because it can whip your ass and it can be quite difficult to do if you don't know what you're doing. So the low pressure fuel pump comes with a relay, obviously because of the hop switch. And we have it all wired up right here. What we did is we ran a wire up through here and it went straight back through there in order to wire to the low pressure fuel pump. We ran the wire down through the seat belt channel, and obviously here's the wire. So the positive and negative terminal are hooked onto this. Obviously, you know, you see gloves right here because I'm not hooking the power up to it because I'm obviously not finished with my build yet. But that's a quick synopsis. I'm sorry if I'm not as detailed as I would like to be, guys. I apologize about that. I've ran into quite a few snags that were a little unforeseen. So I had to kind of improvise. So here's your battery terminal, obviously from the low pressure fuel pump to the battery. Obviously you want to run it, you know, any way you feasibly can. I ran it through here. You know, you have to take off these panels, which is a complete pain in the ass, but I ran it through here, went straight to there, both positive and negative, for obviously the relay setup. The hop switch I did run through the kick panel. All this stuff, guys, comes off very easy. Once you get, you know, this Allen key and this Allen key over here, this door seal comes right off, the carpet comes right up, and then you literally can run it right through there. There is a little channel right here. Here, let me get the light. Okay, so there's a little rubber grommet through the firewall that I poked a little hole through, and I ran my wires through it. I have my high pressure fuel pump wire and also my low pressure fuel setup going through this little grommet piece right here. You know, it works. You know, there's other areas you can push through it. This is the one that I chose, completely up to you. But that's basically the low pressure fuel pump setup. Obviously the hop switch is important. That's basically where shit kind of gets a little complicated, because you have to run the line all the way to the front of the car, basically the wiring to the front of the car. That's basically it for the low pressure fuel pump. Okay, so for the high pressure fuel pump, now here's the deal, guys. This wasn't for the faint of heart, and I would not recommend this for someone that is not heavily mechanically inclined, because a substantial amount of parts have to come off this car in order to properly do this. You can half-ass this and shortcut this and, you know, kind of cut some corners, but then you're gonna start tearing shit up and breaking it. So here are my FX 350 high pressure fuel pumps. Here's the deal with this. There's gonna be quite a bit of parts that do have to come off. There is a line on the stock high pressure fuel pump that comes off that is not gonna be reused, which is this line right here. So this is aftermarket. This is actually a new line that can, you know, hold ethanol, and that we had to reroute this line. Now, part of the spool kit is they give you a whole new line, which is relatively the same as your old, which is the second line right here that goes down there, and it goes to your fuel rail, which I apologize if you guys can't see that, but it's, you know, kind of right there where that connector goes into. The whole fuel rail is this black thing right here. This is your fuel rail, right? And it is no bueno to take out. It is not fun. The issue is that the fuel injectors are so long that all of this must come out. Now, is it possible you can take out the fuel injectors with the fuel rail and not have to worry about this? Sure, you could. But I chose to take off this stuff so that I can pull out the fuel rail and injectors and keep them intact. I didn't want to separate them. So I chose to keep the fuel injectors and the fuel rail intact and not separate them. Now, part of the spool directions is you must drill the fuel rail, which is, you know, scary to some people. However, right here, and I'll show you on the other side, the fuel rails must be drilled with a 2mm drill, a drill head. Yeah, kind of dicey a little bit, because obviously you need compressed air once you drill your fuel rail to drill out any kind of metal debris. If you do not do that, you're gonna get shit in your motor, and then you're gonna have a big problem. Same thing for this side, but this side is way more accessible. Here's your fuel rail right here, again. So fuel rail is right here. And the fuel rail itself, the end of it, which I'll point to it, is right there where my tip of my finger is pointing at. This disconnects right here. The end of the fuel rail is there, and you're gonna have to drill a little hole to open up the passageway of the fuel rail to allow your flow to operate appropriately. Now, here is again, the other side of the FX 350. This is a line that is supplied with the kit. However, it is relatively same as stock. It goes the same direction as stock does. It literally goes down and it goes back, and it goes to the rail, literally down back to the rail. And this is the aftermarket line to essentially hold the ethanol, yada, yada. This is basically the route we went with. Don't judge me, because obviously a lot of this shit's gonna be hidden. So, but this is just the route we're going with for right now. This is essentially the way we set up the lines and the ethanol sensor. This is gonna be big for you guys. I did verify this with Spool Performance to be accurate. So here's the deal, guys. It comes off the high pressure fuel pump, goes straight, goes into this T right here, right? That little 45-degree angle T comes up, literally tees off right there. Sorry, guys. Tees off right there. One line goes up into the filter, and then to the filter goes back through here. The line literally goes right there. That's your line. So this is a quick release line that comes off of the filter straight to right here, right? So that's the proper way to wire that, guys, or to run your fuel line, right? So from here, again, this is kind of tacky. It looks like shit right now. However, this is all just to kind of show you the correct way to run this stuff, you know? The line continues from the T, and boom, ethanol sensor. Again, running back, going up to your high pressure fuel pump. Now, when it comes to wiring the ethanol sensor, yeah, no fun, but no biggie. You can see the wire right there. We chose the passenger side. Again, that's the same area where I have the grommet that I pushed through it. We grounded the ethanol sensor to the body of the car right there. The positive wire, as you can see, that little red wire, runs back to the battery, which the fuse we used this is a long ass little segment, but bear with me, guys. I appreciate it. All right, we have it running safer. You know, we want to make sure that we're not burning anything down or setting the fucking car on fire. So this is an ignition accessory fuse right here. So whenever the car is on, this will operate accordingly and appropriately. I wanted to do that obviously because I'm not trying to drain my battery, and quite simply I just would rather a safer setup than to splice into a wire or do anything like that, right? So I'd rather run a long ass wire all the way to the, you know, fuse box than to splice into a wire. So that's how I ran mine. You know, however you want to set your setup is completely up to you. But I'd rather err on the side of caution. But that's the high pressure fuel pump setup. I might be skipping quite a few things, guys. But again, I kind of ran into a bunch of challenges when taking off the high pressure fuel pumps. You know, there's quite a bit of stuff that needed to be taken off, you know. By the way, if you don't know, here's your coil packs. Right here, same for the other side. You want to be very careful pulling these out because they come out two at a time. And if you haven't changed your plugs in a while, there's a chance that the rubber piece is going to be seized to the actual plug itself. And the last thing you want to do is tear the rubber off. So take your time and be careful pulling those out. That's the last thing you want. I'm getting pretty close on my build. As you can see, it looks like a complete shit show. VTAs, excuse me, are already on. But yeah, literally, no turbos, no exhaust, no intakes, no none of that shit. But we're getting there. The hardest part, literally, guys, were the high pressure fuel pumps and the low pressure fuel pumps. The easy part is literally going to be these turbos. Putting the turbos on, putting the lines together. I already have the schematic on how this goes. The, you know, feed lines, all that stuff. Exhaust downpipes, intakes. That's all the easy shit. The hard shit is what I just showed you guys. So, yeah, let's keep going. All right, guys. So another really key important, you guys are probably wondering, why the hell does the dude have his wheel off? Well, I have a reason why. The ECU is located right here. Voila, that is your ECU. It is right behind the passenger side front wheel. Literally right there. I have to pull off a few more bolts that are underneath here. And all of the half of the trim for the wheel well, you can get away with taking off like this half of the wheel well trim, and there's a few bolts underneath to get access to the ECU. And once you essentially get access to the ECU, there's these bolts right here, and there's a few bolts on the other side. Relatively easy. The connectors are really easy. Just take your time with it. You just, again, push one side and it literally pops out itself. That's the ECU, guys. Now, if you're going with a heavy build like I have, you're gonna need to bench flash your ECU in order to start your car. Like right now, since I did the low pressure fuel pumps, the high pressure fuel pumps, I'm going with a massive turbo, and I'm doing catless downpipes. This shit's not gonna start. It's literally not gonna start. So what Spool Performance is gonna do is they're gonna flash the ECU and let the car know that it's got a lot of stuff on it now and to start appropriately. So you're gonna need to bench flash this car. And again, there's your ECU. Now, also, what needs to have happen, if you're not going with a build this heavy, but you just wanna know where it's at, the TCU, transmission control unit, is in the back. It is in the rear passenger side wheel well on this side. So similar to the front, you'll need to take the wheel off, and you'll need to take the wheel well off. This is actually much easier. You basically, again, from this down, take all the bolts, they're all T30. Take the bolts out, the wheel well will fold, and then you'll have access to the TCU, which is 4 bolts total, 2 on one side, 2 on the other. TCU comes right out, easily disconnected. But you will need to get a TCU tune if you're going for, max effort, because you'll need to unlock the torque limitations on a trans. But yeah, let's keep going. All right, guys, now time for the fun part. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna take all the components from your stock turbos and convert them to your aftermarket ones. Now, depending on the turbo that you go with, which for this video, we're doing the Spool IFX 1200s. A lot of the drain lines are going to be carried over if you're going with like a Pure 1000 or even most of the turbos. But since this is obviously a dual ball bearing turbo, which I really love, there's a lot of new lines and fittings, which is honestly the ideal situation if you had to ask me, simply because a lot of times when you take off some of these lines, you'll have like a lot of seals break, seals pop off. It just happens over time with all the heat. For example, my engine bay is kind of a shit show right now. But needless to say, you can kind of look at some of these and see like how a lot of the seals just kind of give after you give a little ugga dugga tugga. Once you give a tug, the seal is fried. Sometimes if you're careful, even if you're careful, sometimes they'll break. But it all depends. You can get lucky. Sometimes you can reuse them, sometimes you can't. But yeah, so you want to convert your wastegates. Your wastegates are going to be one of the first things that you do. Now, before you start, taking shit off, obviously it's 2 10 millimeter bolts right here, and then it's 2 10 nuts You know, this little clip right here, you get two flathead screwdrivers on both sides, and this little clip will come right off. And then these two tins on each side with a wrench, they just drill, or excuse me, they just back right out. But before you do that, it's in your best interest to kind of mark. I don't know if you can see it there, but it's kind of dark right there. What I did is I marked a line where the wastegate essentially is open. Now, before the car starts, when it's, you know, sitting, this is kind of where the wastegate position is. And you want to do relatively the same thing on your newer turbo. Obviously the car is going to get a tune, you know, and the tuner can, you know, tune the car for a cold start and make sure that it runs right on the tune. But it really helps if you have the wastegates in a similar position to where stock was, even if you have a huge ass turbo like I do now. So again, swap everything over to the new turbos, and let's go to the next segment. All right, so just doing some video vlogging here of these lines here. The turbo lines aren't really that complex as far as the feed and return. They're actually quite easy. The complex part is essentially the spool setup, because they are going from a journal to a ball bearing setup. So the way it's being fed is completely different, but nonetheless, this is actually the line that is right next to the spark plugs. This is a return going to the block. This actually gets blocked off. And I'm verifying that with this, because this is literally the exact same size. And they provide you with just enough returns and feeds to essentially, see that? So I'm vlogging, I'm keeping it moving, and voila. Goes right over that, plugs that out. That's some sort of return, man. I'd like to know where the fuck that return goes. But anyways, so that's plugged off, moving on. All right, so more on the swapping of the lines. So with the Spool IFX 1200s, you will need to still use the stock drains. What you'll want to do, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. The drains only go one way, but you know, what I did is I marked them, you know, driver side, passenger side, P and D, just to kind of make sure the process was a little bit easier. The Spool kit does come with new drain gaskets, which is cool. I like that a lot. New bolts as well. So let's keep going. Okay, so quick update. So far, everything is basically installed. Got the intake system installed. Relatively easy. There's only one thing that I didn't really like about the Black Boost system, is the grommet that goes in the map sensor. They essentially just, there's this rubber plug that comes out so the map sensor can go in. There's really nothing beyond just the hole itself to hold the map sensor in. So what I did is I just went to my AutoZone and replaced the O-ring that was currently on the map sensor to fit a lot more snugger. Now, this build has actually already been finished technically. The turbos went in yesterday, the day before yesterday, topped everything back off, the coolant oil, but we had some clearance issues. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, not sure why, I knew it was a tight fit already kind of going in, but my wastegate actuators have been making contact with the side of the turbo. So it's been hitting right there. So I've had to pull my passenger side turbo off. I've had to pull it up. After installing it, plumbing it, doing all that, I had to pull the passenger side up because it's been making contact with the other turbo, which is odd. I've reached out to Spool Performance directly, kind of showed them what's happening. They're a little confused. They don't know why it's like that. They've showed me some cars previously that have had the same identical turbos. I mean, the pictures and videos that he sent me, it's really, really, really close, but there's no contact on those turbos. So I'm not sure why mines are hitting, but I mean, it's a really, really, really tight fit. So yeah, it's just unfortunate, but I'm essentially gonna make some modifications here, and hopefully it doesn't, you know, mess things up too much. What I plan on doing is, since there's only about maybe, you know, a few centimeters, maybe a millimeter max of contact with the wastegate actuator. I mean, if it was just hitting like something that was solid that didn't have any movement on it, I wouldn't really care. But the fact that it's actually hitting the wastegate rod, preventing the boost from hitting its appropriate levels, that's a problem. So that's basically what I got to do. It's unfortunate, you know, because the build was done. We did first start up day before yesterday. Car ran great, smoked a little bit. Obviously, that's to be expected when you go to a significant build like this. You're changing fuel, you're changing your air. You know, it's going to smoke a little bit in the very beginning. So yeah, that's the update. Gonna keep it going. All right, so as you can see, I got all the turbos back together. Since I had to disconnect some coolant lines on the passenger side over there, I'm rebleeding the coolant system, letting all the air bubbles come to the top. I got this funnel kit here. Had to re-tighten down the lines for the turbo. Honestly, it's kind of a pain in the ass to do, but everything appears to be working good. Just to kind of show you the clearance here, now that I got everything bolted back, that's what I'm talking about right here. Literally. So everything's like just really, 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 really tight, man. But it's all bolted down, running fine. So just gonna keep going. Guys, so car is tuned, dialed in. I've had the car for roughly about a week or two, completely tuned. I've had it on the 93 tune. I've had it on the E60 tune. I've actually kept it on the E60 tune a little bit longer. I like the E60 blend. It's a little bit safer on the car. So one thing I quickly had to learn and change on this car is the traction control. This car makes a shit ton more power. It actually makes double the power of what it used to make. So in order to have the car run properly the way it's supposed to do a pull without actually pulling power, you have to have the traction control at the very least halfway off. If you don't turn your traction control halfway off, you're definitely not going to be able to do a pull. Ideally, to be honest with you, all of the traction control really needs to be off. But you know, I'm not completely racing or drag racing on the street, so I'll just, you know, do a pull in, you know, one gear and just essentially kind of let out. But that's basically the adaptation I've had to do, because I've never had to worry about traction control. Now I have to, because I got double the power. All right, let's do some pulls and kind of show you the experience of the car now. It's fast. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Literally have to fight traction. It spins a lot, so I have to make sure I'm on concrete, and yeah, this car's fast.
Okay.
Just spinning. Spins a lot. I'm gonna try and do another third gear pull. Way too much traffic, man. So that's basically the gist of the car, guys. Unfortunately, there's just way too much traffic. I'm in Florida, so right now it's a beautiful sunny day, and everybody and their mothers on the road. So as you guys can see, the car is extremely more faster than it was. It's double the horsepower, which with a rear-wheel drive car, as you can imagine, there's quite a bit of spinning. When the car was literally cutting in and out of the traction control, you could literally see that the car was spinning. And whenever I did have enough stretch, you know, there was cars in front of me. So, well, that's a pretty good pull. So that was a pretty decent pull. At least I was able to not get on the traction control. But yeah, guys, appreciate you watching. That was about as in-depth as I can get it with the tutorial, but yeah, that's basically it.